Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave from the camera store, and today we're talking about two new exciting lenses from Nikon, the 105 Micro and the 52.8. We were absolutely thrilled that we were able to get our hands on a couple pre-production copies of these lenses from Nikon. Now, they're both capable of shooting 1:1 life-size magnification. However, these lenses have a bunch of differences between the two of them. Certainly the 50 is much smaller, but the 105 VR S-Series micro lens is by far the more exciting of the two lenses we're going to talk about today. Now, I love a 105mm focal range for a bunch of different reasons I'm going to get into. I'm going to also talk about the build quality of this lens and the design of some of the features on here. Now, if you've watched my previous S-Series reviews, there's things I didn't like about them that I do on this lens. First off, let's talk about the focal length. So 105mm is a really nice focal length to work with. When I'm using this lens as a macro lens, for instance, if I'm at my minimum focusing distance, I'm at 0.29 meters, so just shy of a ruler away from my subject matter. And that gives me a lot of options as far as lighting goes. And also when I'm using this lens as a portrait lens, I have a really nice working distance with my subject. Imagine if I'm shooting a head and shoulder shot or a 3/4 body shot. I don't have to yell at them from across a field, for instance. They're really nice and close, but I'm also getting a great compression. Take a look at these two examples here. The 50 certainly looks okay, but the 105 has that extra special look to it, and much better compression and a little shallower depth of field. When it comes to the design and build of this 105 Micro, I really like it. Now, if you're used to the other S-Series lenses in the Nikon lineup, this is going to feel right at home. It has that same fit and finish, and it certainly feels like a premium product. Now, things that I really appreciate about a macro lens like this is a really big focusing ring. Now, even though it has an autofocus with some really nice stepping motors, having a really big focusing ring really helps out fine-tune and makes the whole experience a lot more enjoyable. Now on the side of the lens here, we do have an autofocus and manual focus switch, of course. We do have a focus limiting switch. If I know my subject's going to fall between the 0.29 minimum focusing distance and 1/2 meter, I can limit it so it's not racking focus from infinity and back trying to hunt for focus. It helps speed things up quite a bit. We have two buttons on the lens as well. One is a custom function button that I can assign to a bunch of different situations. We also have the display button here, which controls what I see on this top display. Now, in the past, I wasn't a huge fan of this top display because it didn't really do much for me. On the 7200, for instance, I really didn't use it at all. However, on this lens, I actually like it. And the reason is this is a much more technical lens, and I'm going to find myself doing art reproduction. I'm going to be doing much more technical photography, and I like the fact that I can dial things in much more precisely with this screen. Now, it does allow you to look through things like your depth of field, also shows you in meters or in feet. There's a couple different options you can scroll through with it, so I do like it on this lens. And of course, this being one of their premium lenses, it is fully weather sealed, and it does come with a supplied hood. Now, it is a plastic hood. I think they could have done a little better job with this hood and made it a little more robust, but it certainly does the job. We also have a control dial on the lens, which in my case right now is set up to control my aperture. Now, I can see the aperture through the top of the lens display if I want, or through the camera, of course, but there's no increments, there's no stops, so you have to look and visually confirm that you're at the aperture you want. This lens, of course, does have VR, which stands for vibration reduction in the Nikon world. That's really going to help you out getting some nice, clear, sharp shots. In the case of this lens, you're getting up to 5 stops of stabilization with select bodies. And sharpness is something I want to talk about. This lens is exceptional. Now, this is a pre-production model, but I'm seeing, even right out of the back of the camera, exceptionally great detailed shots. I'm also finding that it's very well controlled as far as distortion goes. This lens is perfect for doing kind of copy work and doing art reproduction and anything that involves a critical sharpness from edge to edge. Take a look at these examples here and you'll see what I'm talking about. I know I've been gushing over the 105mm for a while, and I like the results I'm getting out of that. But let's talk about the new 50mm as well. I don't want it to be the forgotten child. Now, 50mm is of course a much different focal length for different applications. With this lens, we do have a much smaller lens to walk around with. It comes in at 75mm compared to the much larger 105. We have a much smaller minimum focusing distance as well. We go down to 0.16 meters, so you can be significantly closer to your subject when you're focusing. So when I talked about being able to light it properly, that's some of the issues you're going to have to deal with there. Now, this does employ a much smaller front element at 46mm compared to the 62mm filter thread of the 105, so keep that in mind when you're buying filters. Both of these lenses do feature 9 aperture blades, giving you a nice smooth bokeh. However, the 105 is going to give you a little nicer effect because their aperture blades are rounded. Another big difference between these two lenses, this is a front focusing lens on the 50mm, and that means as I rotate out to minimum focusing distance, the lens protrudes out the front as well, changing the overall size of it. Now what's nice is that I do see my aspect ratios printed on the top of the lens, so I know roughly where I am. Now, as much as I love the 105mm for portraits, the 50mm lens is a great general purpose lens. It really resembles closely what the human eye sees perspective-wise. So if I'm out and about and I'm finding the 105 is too tight of a lens to shoot with, the 50 is going to give me a much more natural perspective, making this lens a great walk-around option. Keep in mind when you're using the 50mm lens, it is not a weather-sealed lens, nor is it VR capable. So you're going to have to watch your shutter speeds and make sure you're watching out for camera shake. I really enjoyed my time with these two lenses. They both shoot 1:1 macro, however they are two distinct different lenses and of course are represented by their price point differences as well. Now I have to admit, I am falling for this 105 micro and finding the results I'm getting out of it are exceptional. I love the compression I'm getting, and of course that sharpness is so well controlled, it's a fantastic lens to work with. Now I of course want to know what you guys think of both these lenses. Are either one of them going to find themselves into your kit? Make sure you leave comments down below, follow us both on Instagram, and please subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll catch you again soon. Hey, thanks for sticking around and watching this episode. If you want to check out our more recent content, follow the 105 Micro and click up here. And if you're Canadian, you want to shop local, check out the camera store down here.